Welcome to the Tuesday Weekend, the podcast that will order it the way it says on the menu. I am Josh Hobson, and with me is Nick Parkin. Hey, Nick.
Howdy.
Howdy. Today, we are going to look again at substitutions. Yes, we did an episode on modifications back in season 1, but that was then, and this is now. And there is much more to talk about on this topic. So, to help us today, I brought along another chef. Well, Nick brought along another chef, Matt Shamhon. Matt started cooking at 8, but went to college to be a historian. But he found being a historian was a little on the boring side, so Matt enrolled in culinary school, not boring, and has never looked back. He has worked at Jeune Gelée and is currently the sous chef at 910. Welcome to the Tuesday Weekend, Matt.
This is awesome.
All right. Awesome. Glad to have you. All right. So substitutions. I do want to differentiate between a couple different kinds of substitutions that we do face in a restaurant. When a customer wants to change something on the menu, when a bar or kitchen runs out of an item, or when this distributor substitutes a similar product. But we put people first here at the Tuesday Weekend. So let's start with customer substitutions. There are some that are basically harmless, like putting cheese or onions on a burger or not putting cheese or onions on a burger. Those are usually straightforward enough. Then there are the virtually impossible ones to ask, like wanting to get the jambalaya with no onion. It's already cooked in. It just can't happen. And then there are those customers that treat the menu as a choose your own adventure ingredients list. And yeah, just please don't do that. But before we spiral into bad habits of clueless guests, I actually wanted to start with a question to my co-host here. Nick, what modification do you ask for most frequently when you eat out?
Rare. Just cook it rare. Just cook it the right way. There's really nothing I don't like to try. When I go out to eat, I want to try new stuff. If there's a set dish, I want to try the dish. I really don't look at something like think that would be great except for this one thing. It's just not in my nature to change stuff up like that because I figure the chef put together what they think is going to be fantastic, and I want to see what that tastes like.
I have enough faith in the chef to know what they are doing, that if they compose the plate like that, there's a reason for it.
Well, it's like when you go out to a table, you put a steak down, and the person immediately grabs salt and just starts putting salt on it. It's like, hey, taste it.
Oh, geez. Yes.
Just see what it tastes like first.
I was at a luncheon with a group of people and saw one of my colleagues put a dietitian's nightmare amount of salt on her French fries. But Matt, what modification do you ask for most frequently when you go out?
I really don't ask for any mods, but if there's one thing that I just can't absolutely stand in this world is mayo on a sandwich.
All right. Now, is that any mayonnaise type spread, any kind of, like a chipotle aioli counts in there, or is it just straight mayonnaise?
Just as like a kid, I watched this movie called Undercover Brother, and there was just the scene in the movie where they try to feed the main character mayo and he's just not having it. And it was just so gelatinous and so like weird. I was just like turned off to it since I was a child. Just still can't eat it till this day.
That actually makes me want to fill an empty mayonnaise jar with vanilla pudding and just take a spoon. Anyway, personally, I am not at all a fan of green bell peppers, and it does show up in a lot of places. Red peppers, yellows, just fine. Poblanos, serranos, keep them in. But green bell peppers, there's a chemical flavor in there that just lingers in my mouth, and I just don't like that. So that is the one thing I will either ask to have it without or will just pick it off my food.
Yeah, for me, it's zucchini. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. Don't like the texture. Don't like the flavor. And like if it's in something, that's all I taste.
Sure. But that being said, if I see the, stuffed green bell pepper on the menu, I ain't going to order that. Now, sure, a chili relleno properly made. Yeah, of course, because that's a poblano. So it's fine. But Yeah, nope, just something about green bell peppers. Well, I guess next question is, so let's start with some of the more nonsensical requests that have been made for us for, substitutions or modifications. And I've mentioned this in past episode, I know, but there was one brunch where I had a single table. One person ordered a breakfast burrito, no tortilla, and the breakfast burrito with no egg. And I just wanted to ask them to order something else because they didn't get it. But anyway, but Matt, I'll start with you. What kind of nonsense are you seeing these days?
The usual like I can't have any gluten,
Yep.
allergic to pepper. Made me laugh really hard was the lady said she had an allergy to garlic.
Oh no. Well, okay. There is a real world allium family allergy, but if you're allergic to garlic, then that's onions and leeks and scallions and just the whole family
Yeah.
that you can't eat. Oh, geez, what a limitation that would be on my lifestyle. But
Yeah, that would be 90% of what I eat would not be edible anymore. Be like, oh, great, cool.
even when I'm just making breakfast, half the time it starts with eggs and garlic in a pan. Or sorry, yeah.
Half the time when we start stocks or sauces, it's with garlic or some sort of onion base. So it's like, all right, you want me to modify this, but it's not gonna taste good.
Right. Well, and that gets to one of the problems that all the modifications create, and that is that, okay, if you tell me you're allergic to the onion, I can't give you that stock because that stock I made, has onion all throughout it. But if you just don't like the onion, you tell me that you can pull the flavor of the onion out of all the ingredients that stock that it then becomes a sauce, blah blah blah. Like, no, I don't buy it. You're just being picky.
Well, and that's one of the big problems with the allergy. There's a million food allergies now that never existed 5 years ago, where people, instead of saying, I just don't like that, they're like, oh, I have an allergy to that. It
And if
just
you don't
messes
like
everything up.
something, I will do my best to not put it on your plate.
Yeah, it's super easy. So it's like, hey, it's not like I'm allergic to blue cheese. Just say, I don't like blue cheese. It's like, okay, we won't put that on.
Right.
It's really not that difficult. The gluten allergy, I feel bad for that one because I know that some gluten does make a lot of people feel bad because, we're
Sure.
not allergic to the wheat so much as the pesticides that are in the wheat.
I'm very much on that train as well. Yes.
Yeah, and I do feel bad for it. But at the same time, these people go out and eat a lot and always say, oh, I'm allergic to this. It's like you want to go out and eat, but you expect every place you go to be able to cater to your dietary needs. I mean, at the same time, even without food allergies, like I've had people come in and say, oh, what kind of Indian food do you have? And I'm like, we don't have any. And they're like, why not? And I'm like, we're not an Indian restaurant. That's why not. We're, kind of choose your battles there.
That you just reminded me when I was running the Italian place of the lady who would ask for a baked potato. And it's like, where in Italian cuisine do you think baked potatoes come in?
I was out to Underbelly out here down, and it's a ramen place, and it's in Little Italy, so I could sort of see the confusion. But this drunk guy was insisting to just get their best pizza, which they don't serve at all. There's no pizza there, and he would not leave. He's sitting at the bar. He's like, I'm not leaving until I get my pizza, and they're just like, we don't have pizza.
Yeah, there's a Little Caesars 3 blocks down.
It's like you're in Little Italy. Walk one block up, and there's 60 restaurants that all serve pizza. We don't. It's fun to watch people insist when they are right, and you need to get that. It's like we don't have it. It's not going to happen ever.
Right.
Maybe buy the restaurant, make it a pizza.
Gentlemen, come into the restaurant and order a 14-ounce ribeye, a side of ketchup. In the middle of our rush, ask the bartender if the kitchen can whip up béarnaise for his steak.
Right.
Yeah, just hand make a sauce right now.
Emulsify an egg sauce that takes 10 minutes.
Because I have melted butter on hand, just ready to go, of course. Well,
Yeah,
actually, I probably do, but
that's clarified.
oh, clarify. Yeah, exactly.
Clarified
It's
butter,
melted. I haven't clarified it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the bartender literally looked at the guy and said, "Sir, we do not have béarnaise on the menu, but I will get you more steak sauce if you'd like." He goes, is the chef not adequate enough to make a béarnaise sauce?"
Like, dude, it is the middle of service right now. It's not the time. Well, and really, one of the other issues that all of those modifications cause is part of what cooks have going for them on the line is muscle memory, is making that same dish over and over again and not having to think about what they're reaching for, and definitely not having to look at the ticket 2 or 3 times just to make sure they got all the modifications correct. That just slows everything down.
I've worked, all kinds of places, like most of us have in this industry. And the restaurants I really disliked working in when I worked there was the choose your own adventure and sides, where it's like they have a list of entrees and then, oh, here's a list of, I think the last one I worked at had like 14 sides you could choose 2 of. And they would choose the side, then they would want to modify the sides. It's like, oh, can I get this? But can you add this to, and that's when I'm like, no, you can choose 2 sides and that's just how they come. We don't make any changes. And even then, it's like we're giving you some choice on your dish, and it's still just not enough. Like Matt was saying about like, oh, can you get a béarnaise sauce on that? Or like, oh, can we get a cheese sauce on this asparagus? And it's like, we don't have a cheese sauce at all. We just don't have it. And those are the modifications I've never understood, where it's like you're even given a choice. Like you come in and order a burger and you want this on it or this off it, fine. But it's one time when I was working in a fine dining restaurant and the guy wasn't joking. He's like, oh, I'll take this, and you got a couple of sides there, but the entrees are like $50-$60. So it's like, oh, can I substitute shrimp for the fries? And I'm like, no, you can't substitute shrimp for the fries. You can have a side of shrimp if you want.
$18 upcharge, but sure. Yeah. Even the fancier restaurant I worked at the ski resort, I would have people who would like, oh, hey, yeah, can I get the bison loin, but on the halibut setup? Like they wanted all the vegetable and sides for the halibut, and just a different protein on there. And well, they were paying enough, and that front of house was not accustomed to saying no to people, so we did a lot of that kind of thing. But also, really, well, why can't you just eat the plate as it comes? And whatever. People are accustomed to having it their own way. Oh, yes, that's right. I still want to blame that Burger King ad campaign from the 70s. That's what started this all down the bad path.
I agree with that.
Everyone's personal taste is better than whatever the chef had in mind. Yeah.
Well, and that's as front of the house. That's kind of what we're kind of a gatekeeper on that. I mean, when I'm got set menu, I've got a set menu, and I'm routinely saying, look, the chef put this dish together. Every component is a flavor that is combined together to complete the dish as a final piece. So it's like you're looking at a puzzle and you don't, oh, I don't like this, so just take it off. Well, you're like taking away part of your puzzle, and all of a sudden it's not whole again. You're not really getting what the full experience of this food is going to be. I mean, and that's when I've worked with servers who are just like, they say yes to everything, It's like, hey, garnish my Bloody Mary with a hamburger. Okay, that's stuff like that. And you're trying to sell the brilliance and the taste that your kitchen has come up for the meal that night, and people just want to change it. They don't even think twice. Like, oh, well, can you just take this out? And you're like, no, seriously. It's like, well, it's in part of the dish. We can't take it out. And then they get mad when you can't do that. It's like you said, the whole Burger King thing. It's like people just want it their way, no matter what it's going to taste like. And that's what why are you eating out if you don't want to try the dish?
And then, of course, the problem that each one of us has had in the past is, well, that one time in the past, what's his name did it for me, so you guys can do it. Like, yeah, but you asked for that modification on a slow Tuesday. This is now a busy Friday, and no, it's just I don't have the time to do that in the middle of service. But
actually, that would be my response.
Yeah,
just like, hey, this is a slow day. You're going to come back on a busy day, and we won't be able to do it, so we're not going to do it today either.
That's it.
Sorry.
And I sometimes make that clarification myself too, but let's actually there's plenty more to talk about on this subject, but let's take a real quick break and we'll be back with more on substitutions. All right.